I would say that my call to the ministry started the day I got saved, on the 14th of July, 1979. When I was at that Bible camp, I went down to the altar, and I remember the very first thing that came out of my mouth after I repented of my sins and told Jesus to take full control of my life was, "I want to go out and save the world." You know, I didn't realize till a few years back that really wasn't me saying that. I mean, I said that, but that heart was actually the Holy Spirit in me saying, "I want to go out and save the world." God gave me that heart transplant, and with that heart transplant came a desire to go out and save the world. And so as the Holy Spirit came in, my desire to do ministry began. And so as soon as I got back to my hometown of Peshtigo, I talked to my best friend Jeff, and I said, "Jeff," I said, "we've been living in sin," and this is what Jeff told me. He says, "Oh my," he says, "I can't believe that you got right with God at that camp." He said, "I used to be an on-fire Christian, and then I moved up to this town and met you and fell away from God." Go figure. And I said, "Jeff, we were on our way to hell. We need to get right with God." And he fell on his knees and he got right with God that day, and my ministry began. From that point on, I remember moving down to Rockford, Illinois, and when I was there, I went to a mission service. Now, I didn't know anything about missions. I don't remember knowing ever in my life a missionary, even though I went to church. But I remember in a missionary service in Rockford, Illinois, Bob Hoskins, a missionary, was preaching. And when I was there, he said, in the morning service, he said, "Some of you are going to be called to the ministry in the afternoon service." And I remember going home that afternoon and saying, "Oh God, I'd love to be in the ministry. I don't know if you want me to be in the ministry, but if you would let me know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you want me in the ministry, let me know in the evening service." And so that evening, I sat even in the fourth row just saying, if God calls me, I want to be ready to respond. Well, he preached his message. He gave the altar call for those that were called into the ministry, and I didn't feel anything. And then suddenly, I don't know where it came from. It was like God snuck up from behind me, and the Spirit of God came on me in such a powerful way. It was like a bucket of water, and my body went limp, and I could barely make it to the altar, and I just knew that I knew that God had called me into the ministry that day. And so as soon as that happened, I was so convinced that God called me to the ministry that I said, I got to go to Bible school. And so I was 18 years old, and I applied to Trinity Bible College in Ellendale, North Dakota, and went out there and started studying the ministry. On my third year, in the summer of my third year of college, more missionaries came through the Bible school and said, "We need summer missions workers to go help missionaries around the world." And I thought, hey, I don't have to go back to the chicken farm. I'd love to go tour someplace around the world. Not so much thinking that God would ever call me to be a missionary. And so when he mentioned Zeist, Holland, to be a gardener at the Bible school, just in my heart, I go, I can do that. I didn't know how to preach yet, but I can garden. And so I signed up, went there, and when I was there, loved Holland, loved gardening. But the cool thing was the missionary, Don Phillips, says, "Could you drive a van of Bible school students down to Spain during the World Cup soccer games, 1982, and just chaperone them down there?" I said, "Yeah, I can drive." I was 19 years old. We get in a van, Bible school students, get down to Spain. I get to Spain, have my first coffee, and God called me. No, I did have my first coffee, and I went, whoa. But I was there, and I looked around on a Sunday morning. We were headed to a church, and I didn't see anybody on the streets. I didn't see anybody carrying a Bible. I didn't see families going to a church. And I asked the missionary, he says, "Where do people go to church here in Spain?" He goes, "Hardly anybody goes to church here in Spain." And when he said that, God gave me a heart transplant. And I go, if I'm going to give my life to ministry, if I'm going to preach the gospel, then I'm going to do it in Spain. And I'll tell you what, God gave me a one-track mind. And all I could think about was, when I'm done with Bible school, I'm headed back to Spain. And that's how God called me, from my salvation to a mission service, to a visit to Europe, to a visit to Spain. And for the last 33 years, we've been missionaries in Spain.